Chag Sameach, good Yantif. Happy Pesach, happy Passover, and welcome to our Jewish Home Second Night Seder. I'm Rabbi Carl Choper, and it's good to be with you on this Pesach night. We're going to begin with the lighting of the candles, and then I'll show the candles to you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with mitzvot and commands us to kindle the lights of Yantif. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'hegianu Lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and allowed us to reach this time. And here are the candles. We begin reciting the order of the Seder. Kadesh urchat, karpas yachat, magid rochza, motzi matzah, maror korech, shulchan orech, tzafon barech, alel nirtzah. The Seder begins with a recitation of Kiddush, first cup. So please take up the first cup, and I hope you will join with me each step of the way. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am v'romamanu mikol lashon v'kidshanu mitzvotav. V'atitem lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava moedim l'simcha chagim uzmanim l'sason et yom chag hamatzot hazeh zman cherotenu mikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Kivana v'chata v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim. Modei kodshecha v'simcha v'sason hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh. And now we wash hands without a bracha. And the karpas, dipping of the greens, representing spring, into salt water. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hadama. Representing the tears of affliction and the greens of redemption. Yachatz. I'm going to break the middle matzah. And this becomes, the larger piece becomes the afikomen. I'll wrap the afikomen and put it aside for the end of the meal, because we end the meal with the taste of matzah in our mouth. Lift the matzah. Halach ma'anya da'achalu avatana ba'ara de Mitzrayim. Kol dichfin yatei v'yachul. Kol ditzrich yatei v'yivsach. Hashta hacha l'shana haba ba'ara d'Yisrael. Hashta avde l'shana haba b'nei chorim. This is the bread of affliction which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry enter and eat. Let all who are needy come to our Passover feast. This year we are here. Next year may we be in the land of Israel. This year we are slaves. Next year may we be free. The four questions. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halelot. Shebechol halelot anu ochlin chametz umatzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah. Shebechol halelot anu ochlin shayirakot halayla hazeh maror. Shebechol halelot einanu matpilin afilo pam achat halayla hazeh sheteh te'amim. Shebechol halelot anu ochlin vein yoshveinu vein mesubin halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin. Why is this night different from all other nights? For on all other nights we eat either leavened or unleavened bread. Why on this night do we only eat unleavened bread? On all other nights we eat all kinds of herbs. Why on this night do we eat only bitter herbs? On all other nights we need not dip our herbs even once. Why on this night do we dip them twice? On all other nights we eat either sitting up or reclining. Why on this night do we all recline? We were Pharaoh's slaves. Avadim hayinu leFaro b'Mitzrayim. We were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, and the Lord our God brought us forth from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. And if the Holy One, Baruch Hu, had not brought our ancestors forth from Egypt, then we, our children, and our children's children would still be Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt. So even if all of us were wise, all of us full of understanding, all of us elders, all of us knowing in the Torah, it would still be under the commandment to tell the story of the Exodus from Egypt. And the more one tells the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the more is one worthy of praise. The Torah speaks of four children. The Torah has four children in mind. One one wise, one wicked, one simple, and one that does not yet know how to ask. Chacham mahu omer. What does the wise child say? The wise child says, what do these testimonies and statutes and these ordinances which the Lord our God has commanded you mean? And you instruct this child in the precepts of Passover, even to the point of saying one may not conclude after the Passover meal, or even teaching the details of the Afikomen. Rasha Mahu Omer. The wicked one, what does the wicked say? The wicked one says, what is this service to you? To you, and not to him. Since this one removes himself from the group, and you in return must set this one's teeth on edge and answer, it is because of that which the Lord did for me when I came forth from Egypt. For me, not for you. Had you been there, you would not have been redeemed. And what does the simple one say? Ma'azot, what is this? And you shall say to this one, by strength of hand, the Lord brought us out from Egypt, from the house of bondage. And as for the one who does not know how to ask, you have to begin. And you say, as it says, you shall tell your child in that day, saying, it is because of that which the Lord did for me when I came forth out of Egypt. So we read in the Torah, and we read in the Torah, verses in the Torah, an Aramean, my father was a wandering Aramean, or an Aramean would have destroyed my father, and he went down into Egypt and sojourned there, few in number, and he became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians considered us evil. They afflicted us and laid upon us hard bondage. And we cried unto the Lord, the God of our ancestors, and the Lord heard our voice and saw our affliction and our toil and our oppression. And the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm and with great awe and signs and wonders. And in this section of the Haggadah is called the Magid, because we're telling the story, and we're telling the story over a full cup. However, we are not happy about the plagues which the Egyptians experienced in order that we can be free. So for each one of these plagues, we're going to take some amount of wine out of our cup. So if you take your cup of grape juice or of wine and get it close to you, and also a plate, and we're going to diminish our joy for each of these plagues that the Egyptians experienced. Dam, blood, Sifardea, frogs, Kinim, lice, Aruv, beasts, Dever, hail, Shchin, Dever was boil. Shchin is locusts. Barad, hail. Arbe, choshech, darkness. Makat bekorot, slaying of the firstborn. So there were so many things that are done for us in order for us to be free, any one of which might have been enough for us. But many things happened. If God had taken us out of Egypt, though, if only taken us out of Egypt and not given us the Torah, or not given us Shabbat, or not brought us into the land, that would have been enough. Dayin. Ilu hotzi yanu mi mitzrayim, hotzi yanu mi mitzrayim, dayenu, 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 dayenu. Ilu natan lanu et Shabbat, natan lanu et Shabbat, dayenu, 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 dayenu. Ilu natan lanu et Torah, natan lanu et Torah, dayenu, 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 dayenu. But all of these things were done. So how much more grateful are we that all of these things were done so that we could come out of bondage in Egypt? Rabbi Gamliel used to say, whoever does not make mention of the following three things on Passover has not fulfilled his obligation. Specifically, the Passover sacrifice, the Pesach, the unleavened bread, the matzah, and the bitter herbs, the maror. We have those on the Seder plate. And the Pesach, Sha'anu, Pesach Shahayu Avotenu Ochlin. Here's the Seder plate. The Passover sacrifice, which our ancestors used to eat at the time when the Holy Temple stood, what was the reason for it? Because the Holy One, Baruch Hu, passed over the houses of our ancestors in Egypt. As it is said, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Pesach or Passover, for God passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when God smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and worshipped. Matzah zo sha'anu ochlin. The matzah that we eat, the matzah that we eat. If we can. The matzah that we eat, what is it about? Because the dough of our ancestors had not yet leavened when the Holy One was revealed to the people and redeemed them, as it is said, and they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not delay, neither had they prepared for themselves any provisions. And the bitter herbs. Maror zeh sha'anu ochlim al shumma. What is the maror for, the bitter herbs? Because the Egyptians made the lives of our ancestors bitter in Egypt, as it is said, and they made their lives bitter with hard service, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field, in all their service in which they made them serve with rigor. In every generation, it is incumbent upon each person to see himself or herself as if he or she specifically came forth out of Egypt. And as it is said, you shall tell your child in that day, saying, it is because of that which the Lord did for me when I came forth out of Egypt. It was not only our ancestors that the Holy One redeemed, but us as well did God redeem along with them. As it is said, and God brought us out from there, that God might bring us in to give us the land which God swore to our ancestors. Lefichach, אנחנו חייבים להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרמם, להדר, לברך ולקלס, למי שעשה לאבותינו ולנו את כל הניסים האלו. Therefore we are bound, we are required to thank, praise, laud, glorify, exalt, honor, bless, extol, and adore the one who performed all these miracles for our ancestors and for us, who brought us forth from slavery to freedom, from sorrow to joy, from mourning to rejoicing, from darkness to great light, and from bondage to redemption. Let us then recite before God a new song, Hallelujah. V'nomar lefanav shira chadasha, v'nomar lefanav shira chadasha, v'nomar lefanav shira chadasha, v'nomar lefanav shira chadasha. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. When Israel came forth out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of a strange language, Judah became God's sanctuary, Israel became God's dominion. The sea saw it and fled, the Jordan turned backward, the mountains skipped like rams, the hills like young sheep. What ails you, O sea, that you flee? You, Jordan, that you turn backwards? You mountains, that you skip like rams? You hills like young sheep? Tremble, all the earth, at the presence of Adonai, at the presence of the God of Jacob, who turned the rock into a pool of water, the flint into a fountain of waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher ga'alanu v'ga'al et avotenu mimitzrayim v'higianu l'halayla hazeh le'echol matzah u'maror. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who redeemed us and who redeemed our ancestors from Egypt, and has brought us to this night to eat upon it matzah and maror. So Adonai Eloheinu, so our God and God of our ancestors, bring us to other festivals and holy days that come toward us in peace, happy in the building of your city, and joyous in your service. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, Redeemer of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Now we're going to wash our hands again as we eat the symbolic foods and then get ready for the meal. This time we say, wash the hands with the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. Then so we just ate matzah, which is the first symbolic food. The second symbolic food we're going to eat is the maror, the bitter herbs. And I'm going to take the bitter herbs, which in this case is horseradish. And dip it into a little bit of charoset. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. And the Hillel sandwich. Hillel would make a sandwich out of the matzah, the three symbolic foods, the matzah, the bitter herbs, and the Passover sacrifice. So we still make a sandwich out of matzah and maror, and some traditions put the charoset in there also as a placeholder. And no bracha for that, because we've already said the blessings. And it is important to note that the meal itself is one of the steps of the Seder. The Seder has 15 steps, 15 parts. Some say that resembles or reminds us of the 15 steps up to the altar in the temple. So the meal is important. So I hope you have something with you. I have some traditional, because the meal tends to always start with some egg and gefilte fish, right? So I have some gefilte fish here. It's important that we eat something because this, after all, it's a remnant of a sacrificial meal, quite literally. We don't have the sacrifice anymore, but we have the memory of the sacrifice, and we have the meal around the sacrifice. And of course, this is when there's so much family kibitzing going on. And I'm sure if you think about the people we can all remember people we've spent Pesach with in the past. So I want this to be a time when all of those, we're celebrating all of those Pesachs together, all of those Pesachs, past, present, and future. That's when we get to Elijah. Elijah will be about Passover of the future. Let's put that aside. The meal ends with the afikomen. The meal ends with the taste of matzah in your mouth. And so remember, you put the afikomen aside. So let's everyone take a piece of matzah. And to conclude the meal. And we're going to fill the cup again. The third cup. Full cup is a symbol of joy, and this is a blessing of gratitude. So we're going to say this blessing of Thanksgiving after the meal as an expression, joyous expression. This is going to be a shortened form. The Talmud specifically describes a short blessing, which is Brich Rachmana. Blessed is the merciful one. Malka Da'alma, ruler of the universe. Mare Dehaipita, master of this bread, of this meal. This is in Talmud, in Brachot, tractate Brachot. It speaks of this blessing as the shortest blessing after eating a meal. And actually, Rabbi Shefa Gold several years ago put this to a melody. Brich Rachamana Malka De'alma Mare Dehaipita. Brich Rachamana Malka De'alma Mare Dehaipita. You are the source of life for all that is, and your blessings flow through me. You are the source of life for all that is, and your blessings flow through me. Brich Rachamana Malka De'alma Mare Dehaipita. Brich Rachamana Malka De'alma Mare Dehai Pita. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Now, the journey continues. Passover continues. The Exodus continues. In the Torah, we continue out into the wilderness. And some 50 days later, we end up at Mount Sinai. That will be Shavuot. So starting tonight, the second night of Passover and the second day of Passover, we begin counting the Omer. The Omer is a measure of grain. And I'll read this. On the second day of Passover in ancient times, our ancestors brought the first sheaf of barley that was reaped that season as an offering to God. From that day, they began counting the days and weeks to Shavuot, when they would celebrate the beginning of the wheat harvest by offering loaves made of the first wheat. Even after the temple was destroyed and offerings were no longer brought, Jews have continued to count the days from Passover to Shavuot in accordance with the biblical injunction. Thus, our ancestors linked Passover and Shavuot as occasions for thanking God for the fruits of the field. And so do we thank God for the renewal of life that all nature proclaims at this season. Also, it connects coming into freedom with receiving the Torah. With freedom comes responsibility, and also we need to be free in order to take on the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with mitzvot and commands us concerning the counting of the Omer. Hayom yom echad la'omer. Today is the first day of the Omer. So, in every generation, each individual should feel personally redeemed from Egypt. Whoever expands upon the story of the ongoing Exodus is worthy of praise. So the people, we continue wandering. The story continues, it repeats itself again and again. After the Exodus in Sinai, we wander in the desert on our way to the promised land. And so we know we ended up in Babylon and in Spain and in the Mediterranean and North Africa and in Eastern Europe and France and Poland, Russia, the Americas, and in Israel. One particular sad moment, difficult moment, I remember, always think about those difficult times we came through in the past century, thinking now of the Holocaust, and I always think about this reading here. The Jews of Bergen-Belsen had no matzah for Passover in 1944. It was decided that the eating of chametz, of leaven, was permissible, and that the following intention, the following kavanah, should be recited before meals. And they would say, "Our Father in heaven, behold, it is evident and known to you that it is our desire to do your will and to celebrate the festival of Passover by eating matzah and by observing the prohibition of chametz. But our hearts are pained that the enslavement prevents us from eating matzah, and we are in danger of our lives. Behold, we are ready to fulfill your commandment in the book of Leviticus, which says, and you shall live by them. You shall observe the mitzvot to live by them. That is, live by them, not die by them. Therefore, our prayer to you is that you may keep us alive and save us and rescue us speedily, so that we may observe your commandments and do your will and serve you with a perfect heart. Amen. And in that same decade, the state of Israel was established. And I always think of this passage from the Israeli Declaration of Independence. The state of Israel will promote the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants, will be based on precepts of liberty, justice, and peace taught by the Hebrew prophets, will uphold the full social and political equality of all its citizens without distinction of race, creed, or sex, and will guarantee full freedom of conscience, worship, education, and culture. It is important to remember these values embedded in our tradition and embedded in our current, the way our people is currently structured and the way the state of Israel is currently structured. So we are looking towards Passover of the future, what future redemption looks like. And I'm holding up here a cup which is full, which has been sitting here. This is the cup of Elijah. We open our doors and our hearts to welcome Elijah to our homes. Elijah, the eternal wanderer, is given a momentary respite and a drink from his cup before continuing his endless quest for the end of days. Elijah, the eternal companion of the Jewish people, will herald the Messianic age. In the meantime, he reminds us of the hope he carries. He reappears at moments when that hope is tangible, such as at the Seder and at the birth of children. And tonight I'm using as Elijah's cup a cup which was a gift to our family as part of a set of cups that came from the Soviet Union as a remembrance of the struggle to get Jews out of the Soviet Union. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera v'yameinu, Yahavo aleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. And we continue with Psalms of Praise. Odecha ki anitani v'atehi li lishua. Odecha ki anitani v'atehi li lishua. Even masu habonim ha'etah lerosh pina. Even masu habonim ha'etah lerosh pina. Miet Adonai hayatazot iniflahat beinenu. Miet Adonai hayatazot iniflahat beinenu. Zeh hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismechavo. Zeh hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismechavo. Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Ana Adonai Hoshiana, Ana Adonai Hatzlichana, Ana Adonai Hatzlichana, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, Berachnuchem mibeit Adonai. Blessed all those who come in the Eternal One's name. We bless you in the Eternal One's house. Divine is the Eternal One who gives us light, Adorn the festive place with leafy boughs, up to the corners of the altar shrine. You are my God, to you I offer thanks, my God, whom I revere. Give thanks to the Eternal who is good, whose love is everlasting. Ho du l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Now our Seder is completed, every requirement fulfilled. Just as we have been privileged to observe it this year, may we continue to do so in years to come. You who are pure, dwelling on high, raise up your countless people. Soon bring your offshoots strong, redeemed to Zion in joyous song. Ha'asal sidor pesach kehilchato, kechol mishpato v'chuhu kahato, kahasher zachinu l'sahaderoto, ken nizkela ahasoto. Zach shochen me'ona, komem kahal adat mimana, bekarov nahel nitechana, iduyim zitzion beherina. Next year in Jerusalem, Leshana haba b'Yerushalayim, Leshana haba b'Yerushalayim, Leshana haba b'Yerushalayim, Leshana haba b'Yerushalayim. Next year in a city of peace for all its inhabitants. And songs, Passover songs, songs that many of us have heard before, be familiar to some of us. Adirhu, Yivne Veto Bekaro, Bimhera, Bimhera, Beamenu Bekaro, El Bene, Bene Vetha Bekaro, Bachorhu, Gadolhu, Dagulhu, Yivne Veto Bekaro, Bimhera, Bimhera, Beamenu Bekaro, El Bene, Bene Vetha Bekaro, Adorhu, Vatiku, Zachaihu, Chasidhu, Yivne Veto Bekaro, Bimhera, Beamenu Bekaro, El Bene Vetha Bekarov, Kadoshhu, Rahumhu, Shaddaihu, Takifu, Yivne Veto Bekarov, Bimhera, Beamenu Bekarov, El Bene Vetha Bekarov. Another song some may know, Kilo na'eh, Kilo ya'eh, Adir bimlucha, Bachor kahalacha, Yedudav yomru lo, Lecha ulecha, Lecha ki lecha, Lecha af lecha, Lecha Adonai hamamlecha, Kilo na'eh, Kilo ya'eh, Dagul bimlucha, Dor kahalacha, Vatikav yomor lo, Lecha ulecha, Lecha ki lecha, Lecha af lecha, Lecha Adonai hamamlecha, Kilo na'eh, Kilo ya'eh, Takif bimlucha, Tomech kahalecha, Temimav yomru lo, Lecha ulecha, Lecha ki lecha, Lecha af lecha, Lecha Adonai hamamlecha, Kilo na'eh, Kilo Ya'em. And what about Echad Miyodea? Echad Miyodea. Who knows one? Who knows one? Echad Miyodea. Echad Miyodea. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. One God in the heavens and the earth. Who knows two? Shnayim Miyodea. Shnayim Ani Yodea. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Two tablets that Moses brought. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. Who knows three? Shlosha Miyodea. Shlosha Ani Yodea. Shlosha Ahavot. Three patriarchs. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. Who knows four? Arba Miyodea. Arba Ani Yodea. Arba Imahot. Four matriarchs. Shlosha Ahavot. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. Who knows five? Chamisha Miyodea. Chamisha Ani Yodea. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Five books of the Torah. Arba Imahot. Shlosha Ahavot. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. Who knows six? Shisha Miyodea. Shisha Ani Yodea. Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Six orders of the Mishnah. Six sections of the Mishnah. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Arba Imahot. Shlosha Avot. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. Shiva Miyodea. Who knows seven? Shiva Ani Yodea. Shiva Yimei Shabbatah. Seven are the days to Shabbat, the days of the week. Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Arba Imahot. Shlosha Avot. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. Shmona. Who knows eight? Who knows eight? Shmona Miyodea. Shmona Ani Yodea. Eight are Shmona Yimei Mila. Eight are the days to circumcision. Shiva Yimei Shabbatah. Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Arba Imahot. Shlosha Avot. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. Tisha Miyodea. Who knows nine? Tisha Ani Yodea. Tisha Yarchei Leda. Nine are the months of childbirth. Shmona Yimei Mila. Shiva Yimei Shabbatah. Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Arba Imahot. Shlosha Avot. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. Echad Eloheinu Shabashamayim U'Va'aretz. And who knows 10? 10 are the 10 commandments. Asara Dabraya. And who knows 11? 11 are the stars in Joseph's dream. 12 are the tribes of Israel, and 13 are the attributes of God's mercy. Shlosha Asar Miyodea. Who knows 13? Shlosha Asar Miyodea. Shlosha Asar Midaya. Shneim Asar. Shivtaya. Achad Asar. Kochavaya. Asara Dihibraya. Tisha Yarchei Leda. Shmona Yimei Mila. Shiva Yimei Shabbatah. Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Arba Imahot. Shlosha Ahavot. Shnei Luchot HaBrit. 13 are the attributes of God. 12 are the tribes of Israel. 11 are the stars of Joseph's dream. 10 are the commandments. 9 are the months of childbirth. 8 are the days of circumcision. 7 are the days of Shabbat. 6 are the orders of the Mishnah. 5 are the books of the Torah. 4 are the matriarchs, and 3 are the patriarchs, and 2 are the tablets of the covenant. Echad Eloheinu shabashamayim uva'aretz. One is one God in heaven and in earth. And the song that so many Passover Seders end with, Chad Gad Yah, one little goat, Dizvan Abba Bihitre Hezozeh, that my father bought for 2 zuzim. Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah, Ve'ata Shunra Ve'achala Gad Yah. There came a cat that ate the little kid. Dizvan Abba Bihitre Hezozeh, Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. My father bought for 2 zuzim. There came a dog that bit the cat. Dizvan Abba Bitre Zozeh, Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. Ve'ata chutra devehi kalachalba. And there came a stick that beat the dog. Dizvan Abba Bitre Zozeh, Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. And then there came a fire that burnt the stick. Ve'ata nora v'saraf l'chutra dechikala kalba v'nashaf l'shunra da'achal agadya dizvan abba b'idre zozeh Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. Ve'ata maya v'chava l'nora. There came water that quenched the fire. V'saraf l'chutra dechikala kalba v'nashaf l'shunra da'achal agadya Dizvan Abba Bihitre Zozeh, Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. Ve'ata Torah v'shat halamaya. There then came an ox that drank the water, that extinguished the fire, that burnt the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. And there then came a shochet, a Jewish butcher, kosher butcher, that slaughtered the ox. There came the angel of death that slaughtered the shochet. And then comes the Holy Blessed One. That slaughters the angel of death. That slaughtered, that killed the shochet, that slaughtered the ox. That drank the water, that quenched the fire. That burnt the stick, that hit the dog, the nashach l'shunra, that bit the cat, the achal agadya, that ate the kid. Dizvan abba bihitre hezozeh, Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. The kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Chad Gad Yah, Chad Gad Yah. I wish you a happy Pesach, one of liberation of all sorts, and one of joy, happiness. Think of the many ways that we are free in our experience, and many ways that we soon will be more free. Good Yantif. Chag Sameach.